welcome to Breakfast Central on News Central. It's midweek, it's Wednesday, and today is another day to look into the big stories. If you're starting your morning with us, like we go rightly say, you've made the best choice, and we are happy that you have chosen to start your day with us. You wouldn't regret it. Now let me clear my throat. That's because it's a sign to show that we're about to march, not walk or not get, but march into the Harmattan season, because it's starting to come down to Lagos. But anyways, welcome to Breakfast Central, and today we have a complete package for you. Big guys here, and what's up?
It's great to be here, and you're welcome to the best breakfast show on television, yes, Breakfast Central, where we bring you a potpourri of all the news and interesting developments happening in our country and also beyond. We bring you the subject matter analysts to help chop and dissect this big news so that you can understand. We're also very interactive. We allow you to call in and interact with us during the newspaper headlines. So sit back, relax, and let's have a great time today. Joe, you said something about the Harmattan season. I haven't felt it.
I mean, I felt it just a little
Even
while.
after the rains.
Just
you
a little.
think the rains will usher it in, but no.
I
Maybe
think,
the Harmattan haze, but the temperature hasn't.
Yeah, there's a little struggle though, but I can feel it in the air. It's a bit dusty. We're getting there though, hopefully. But Lagos is usually saturated. It's population-wise.
25 million nostrils.
You know, all
sucking
breathing
all the atmosphere. So it's hard for you to feel it.
You can imagine.
Yes.
I can imagine that too.
Talking about Lagos, I mean, I commended them because I've seen the difference.
The
you
lights.
can drive all the way from the island to the mainland to certain parts, and you're no longer in the dark. But still, there are areas that have been neglected. These are axes. Wemco Road, the Agidingbi Road, there are also potholes there.
Yes.
Awolowo Road, Ikeja, you see the poles, but the contractors have not come to mount.
They are going on small holiday. They'll be back.
They shouldn't go on holidays. If we are working, and we'll also be working on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, they should work. You're not going to turn on your television and you see, no transmission, public holiday, we've gone to rest. We don't rest.
But imagine that could happen. I mean, I'm sure the world, everyone will be in disarray. Everyone will wonder what is happening, because you would not get access to latest information. And that's why they say the press, the media is a fourth realm. Because imagine if the print newspapers, everybody just say we're not going to publish, we're all going on a break for one full week. I bet you will not hear any story.
And the blogs don't even have any stories.
Everybody's just good. Then that's where they start coming up with new stories. They start doing top five stories or top 5 information from the National Assembly, and you just start looking for something to put together. But then again, thanks. And we want to use this medium to say, well done to all the men, because we call them gentlemen of the press. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. It's just directed as gentlemen of the press. All the gentlemen of the press who have worked tirelessly from January up until now. Well done. Kudos. Kundus. Kudos, and thank you so much for putting in the efforts. Let's start off our wake-up conversation this morning. Yes, recent images have indeed surfaced online of a care center in Dania Shima Ward, Suru local government area of Kebbi State, as you can see there on the screen. Now, they've once again spotlighted the troubling state of public health care infrastructure in the region. Now, I beg to mention that Kebbi State is the same state that was faced with the recent kidnapping of students, and you recall what was done. But anyway, these photos that you see on the screen there reveal a facility in severe disrepair. I don't think it's even up to a state of disrepair. I think it's non-existent.
Exactly.
Sparking widespread concerns, particularly as they surfaced shortly after the state government approved 10 billion naira, take note, to sponsor pilgrims for the Hajj. For many residents, the stark contrast between such spending and the neglect of essential services has reignited debate over governance priorities, with growing calls for urgent investment in primary healthcare systems, that serve the everyday needs of local communities. Well, let's get to see what the people are saying. That's another conversation we're going to look at. But then again, you saw those images. Let's put them back up on the screen again so you can see them. Just to pose that with what you see on the headline there, the Kebbi State governor approving 10 billion naira for Hajj. And then you have this as a medical facility amongst many other medical facilities. What a situation that we do have on our hands. Play it out. But before we react to these, let's see if we do have tweets from what Nigerians are saying concerning this medical situation. Well, you could talk about infrastructure-wise. Scoot says the same Kebbi residents and certain uninformed individuals will tell you they would rather travel for Hajj than receive healthcare. People even ask the graduates to choose Hajj over a job offer employment. Religion is what they have given the North instead of progress. That's deep. Another one. ATB says this is a sobering and painful contrast. A working health center is a matter of life, dignity, and basic care for a community, and it should never come second to non-essential expenditures. If a government can budget billions for pilgrimage support, it can and must prioritize clinics with lights, staff, medicines, and other necessities. Development is not about choosing one over the other. It's about putting people's health and dignity first every time. But the image move not just emotions, but policy and priorities. Deep.
Very great post there. And well, Anelechi John, who's a registered nurse, says, this is the real tragedy. A primary healthcare center in Kebbi State is left in this state. Yeah, 10 billion naira is earmarked for Hajj loans. Governance is about priorities. Healthcare is a basic obligation and not a luxury. When prevention and primary care are neglected, the costs are paid in lives, not just naira. Absolutely. Well said. DS Maisaje says, now this is heartbreaking. Fixing the problem isn't rocket science at all. What if all elected and appointed office holders for this constituency were forced with all members of their families plus relatives to access their healthcare from this facility? Wouldn't they fix it? Interesting point of view there. Amatok says, I do not have any problem with the sponsorship of religious pilgrims, but it should not be the government's business. There are competent businesses stalwarts from the same states that can sponsor pilgrims with larger sums, he says.
Wow.
Victor says, saw this and burst into hot laughter. I'm tired of crying for Nigeria, he says.
Anyway, we're done with the tweets. We're done with the tweets being up.
I mean, it's a tragedy. And that's
sad.
not, there's no way you can refer to that as a public health care center. Maybe it used to be, but of course, it's obvious from that picture that it's been abandoned and left to a state of disrepair. It can't, I mean, nothing can function from that. It doesn't even have a roof over its head. And it just goes to show what the state thinks is priority. Religion is a private affair. I mean, it's one man to his God. The state shouldn't come in and tell you how to practice your religion or do certain things. I believe it should be the duty of an individual to, do his religious duties. And the state should also prioritize other things like education and healthcare. 10 billion naira for Hajj sponsorship and pilgrimage. I mean, what's the return on investment?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
No, nothing.
So that's the answer.
Because the truth is, I like how you've highlighted it. Religion is it's a personal intervention. It's a personal thing between yourself and the Almighty God. It's just two of you. Imagine people were being told that they will be paid salaries for worshiping God. I'm sure many of us will not be working.
Absolutely.
We would not be working. And although that's starting to look like a stark reality in some parts of the world, also here in Africa, where people have henceforth relegated working and are focused on the title that comes with the fact that they are religion, experts, or they belong to a certain religion, therefore they expect to be paid either by the people, therefore, there's a lot going on. But let's narrow it down to what we've highlighted here and what the big story is, the government. If you are spending 10 billion naira, sometimes I wonder if the people who are listening, who even voted in the governor, take some time to sit back and ask themselves, what is the end game? What's the end product of all of this? 10 billion. 10 billion naira Benga will be able to build a well-furnished hospital. Not even one. I can dare say here, possibly can give you up to
a few primary healthcare centers.
Yeah. Yes, primary healthcare centers, where mothers can go there, take care of their children. Basic health amenities can be done. Sometimes you wonder, where did we get it wrong? And the funniest thing in all of this is 2025, Benga.
Okay, so let's even assume the governor has a light bulb moment and he thinks about this great initiative. I want to use 10 billion naira to sponsor people to the Holy Land for pilgrimage. What about
the assembly?
Exactly, the assembly. Can all 30 plus or 20 plus of them also have the same brainwave and nobody can check this sort of frivolous expenditure? It
pretty much seems like governance has gone to sleep. Have you noticed? It pretty much seems like governance has gone to sleep. What we're seeing play out these days, especially with the stories we're taking, the ones we're writing on, the ones we're doing investigation on, it pretty much seems like those in governance have hung their boots when it comes to governing. They've hung it, and they're now focused on just looking at areas in which either they can do something that people would shout and say, this is completely ridiculous, or they just do something that seems like, have they really had a thought, a proper thought?
Did they think it through?
Did they think it through and on how it would benefit the people? That's what it's starting to look like. Well, not all parts of Nigeria, by the way. Let me also mention that. But in certain parts of the country, you're wondering, is there a government or what is going on?
And the priority seems to be politicking. I mean, as we speak, there are over 100 children that were kidnapped in Niger State, and we've not heard any news from them, apart from the last tranche that were released, 100 of them. So there's still more than 100 in the kidnappers' den in the bush. We don't know their psychological states. We don't know the state of their health. And it seems we've moved on, nothing happened. And it's an indictment on our collective humanity as Nigerians for children, school children, children who were studying in the schools. It's bad enough that they were abducted, but we don't seem to see any movement or any sense of urgency in bringing them back. It's been relegated to the back stories, and no one is talking about this. Our thoughts and prayers are with those kids, and we hope they return to their wards very soon. Okay.
Anyway,
away from that, our second wake-up conversation this morning, very sad one and mischievous one. The Senate has ordered a very thorough probe and imposed sanctions following claims linking Senator Akpabio to alleged debts, a move that has immediately captured nationwide attention. In his remarks, Senate President Akpabio referenced former head of state General Gowon, noting that a similar approach was taken in this case, underscoring the gravity with which the chamber is treating these allegations. Lawmakers emphasized that the investigations will be meticulous, carefully gathering evidence, reviewing testimonies, and ensuring due process. The action sends a strong message that no claim, no matter how high profile, will escape scrutiny. And already citizens and political analysts are watching closely as the high-stakes investigation unfolds. But let's take a listen.
42, which does not need any exhaustive deliberations. So I would say that your point of order is sustained. However, you have to know it's not only politicians that they make these reports about. Somebody was telling me that they showed a burial ceremony of a business tycoon when the person is not dead, and they also said the former head of state General Gowan is dead when he was alive, attending the last Christmas carol. And I don't know, I think all we can do is to, is it the view of the Senate that this matter be referred to the National Security Advisor, the DSS, to investigate? Those in support say aye, those against say nay. That is how it. I think that's all we can do. You can't stop people from writing, you know, the internet is garbage in, garbage out. So you can't stop people from putting in garbage.
So there you have it. The Senate has said those who peddle dead rumors, that it's not just politicians that they claim they have died. They will face stiffer consequences, and is even going as far as saying that maybe it should be a national security issue, that he was asking if a committee should refer to the National Security Advisor. I wonder if the laws of the country are not inadequate or don't cover this sort of situations like libel and things like that.
It
I
does,
understand
but
the
it does.
frustration. It does.
But it does. Apparently
So
it does.
I understand their frustration, and it's really annoying. And you think human beings and adults will self-regulate and know the consequences of the things they are putting out. But in the age and proliferation of social media, we've seen all sorts of, and then the development of AI, we've seen all sorts of fake news and issues coming out. Sometimes you see a news item, you have to double check. Over the weekend, I saw fake news about the passing of the former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon. And
I saw that too.
All the major
Whereas he was an event.
Attending a Christmas carol event. So I wonder what the idea is behind this.
Well, whether we like it or not, that's why we have a program here on News Central. It's called The Proof. The Proof is a program that we urge everyone to always watch. It's our own way of ensuring that you learn the difference between actual news, away from misinformation, and also disinformation.
And how to identify fake news.
How to spot fake news. A lot of stories you see online are just clickbait. And sadly, you also have people who are gunning for likes. Don't forget, likes is a new currency now. So everybody just wants to see, oh my goodness, my video had 10,000 views. Oh my God. I mean, I always say this, that, yeah, the views are good because you want to convert them to money. But I always say the impact is the most important thing, because if you put out a lie and then you have billions of views, the impact of that lie could actually cause a lot of damage to people, even if they're just 30 of them.
Absolutely.
And these are lives. The lives are different from likes.
And in the event that you put out a rebuttal, the rebuttal doesn't
change anything.
It's never as viral as the initial post. So
you know, I'm sorry.
Damage
when I was doing this, I didn't know.
But I like that.
You know,
people are making examples out of certain individuals that cross boundaries and make up some of this false allegations. One of the P-Square brothers, I think it's Peter Okoye, a lady on Twitter made a very damning allegation against him that didn't he impregnate his housewife.
Okay, I think that's Paul.
Yes. And she was picked up. She had a day in court. Others, I believe it was Bello El-Rufai, one of the El-Rufai children, made a very libellous statement against him. And then when he swung into action, she started begging that she's sorry and all of that.
And then there's this young chap who is already begging that he shouldn't be picked up or arrested. I think I saw a video or something that he was just playing. But I'm all for it. Senator Ned Nwoko should please forgive him and so on. But when you were making those damning comments,
I mean, you're an adult. You knew what you were doing, so you should face the consequences. So I'm for these sort of actions so that people would learn. If you make one or two examples and scapegoats, because they hide behind the screen, they think you can't be found out and tweet and write all sorts of scandalous and libellous things about people.
But that's one, Benga. I'm also looking at it from another angle as well, that a lot of these social media influencers who want to become overnight influencers by jumping into the news very quickly, they need to learn lessons, and they also possibly need to go for small courses to learn about what to do, what not to do. However, I'm also of a different opinion that the DSS and the National Security Advisor shouldn't wade into this kind of thing.
We have bigger
because
issues.
there's a lot in front of us. Some children, they've not released some of the children.
Yes. And then, okay, you say somebody died. The person has not died. So
it's just a public
national security assets
to start chasing
people
after people look at their days and all that. Rather, I was expecting that. Well, I mean, well done to the National Assembly for bringing it up. It's very key because one thing that keeps a country united is to ensure that, I mean, there are lots of people who have gone through a lot just because of fake news, and misinformation that was passed around and in terms of circulated around. But while that is being dealt with, I also like the way the Senate President had said that you can't stop these people. They will keep talking about it. It's not just us they talk about. They talk about other people. I mean, do you know how many times I've seen videos that Jackie Chan is dead?
Oh, yes.
Do you know how many times you go on Facebook? At some point, I even got tired of Facebook because every single thing you see there, if care is not taken, they're all fake stories. And now that you have artificial intelligence, people need to even be more smarter now because sometimes it's harder to identify which one is the artificial intelligence and which one is real, because the AI can mimic the same voice of the individual. You just need to learn the tricks. I mean, by the way, just watch The Proof here on News Central. Make sure you watch it with Dashi Osman. You would learn a lot on how you can identify these fake videos. But let's track back. Let's track back to the fact that the National Security Advisor and the DSS should go after these people. I would rather say, instead of them going after these people, Dangote has made a statement, and we're going to revisit that story. The NMDPRA boss has responded. I think that's where the National Security Advisor and the DSS should look into too. If since the EFCC and the ICPC and the CCP is a bit slow, those are the kind of things that we should look at. I mean, when are we going to see a National Assembly that would look into issues and say,
issues that have national
interest and implication, and say, listen, as a National Assembly, as a people who are representing Nigerians, millions of Nigerians, we must ensure that we don't just come here and look at policies and so on, laws. Let's also ensure that anything that tries to disconnect,
issues
destroy,
of national interest should be brought to the fore.
Let's put it there. And these are some of the conversations that I think you can look into.
Let's take a few tweets on what Nigerians are saying on this issue. King David West says, they can't track bandits and Boko Haram, but can track harmless citizens. They actually know what they're doing. He says, exactly, and that's what we've been highlighted. They only flex muscles when it comes to citizens, but not terrorists, he says. Ebo says, a one-star general was killed by terrorists, and you didn't even demand that the killers be properly tracked. When the time comes, Nigerians will speak with one voice. Keep pushing people to the wall. Okay. Ola Chris says, I love this move. Things like this shouldn't be thrown under the carpet. They should fish them all out and punish them. But charity begins at home. How many have they tracked? From terrorism sponsors to NMPC own theft to terrorists themselves posting videos of captives and ransoms with their faces on display. If the Senate President got pushed for the above, then we all know they're for everyone and not for themselves alone. Nigerians deserve better since service. Nigerians deserve better service from those representing them. Absolutely.
Well, let's see another one. Lekki massacre victim says, so NSA and DSS are this jobless. Nigerians are dying daily. See what Senate is more concerned about. And let's see if we can take more tweets. Shameful priorities. They couldn't deploy the same urgency to hunt bandits, kidnappers, or terrorists. But suddenly, security apparatus must move because of rumors about one man. This tells you everything. Power is protected. Citizens are expendable. Well, we've also highlighted this, and I believe that members of the Nigerian Assembly, National Assembly, I beg your pardon, are also watching. We think that priorities matter in every single thing we've talked about this morning. While we do not in any way aid and abet or support individuals talking derogatorily or badly about the leaders and those at the front row, we also want to mention that there are very key and pertinent issues that are begging for your consideration in the House of Assembly. Now, let me also take it to another level. It took a rep of the United States to come down to Nigeria to walk down to Bauchi, to go to these areas, Benue, I beg your pardon, where these killings had happened. I have not seen the Senate president there. I have not seen videos or pictures of the Senate president. I have not seen videos and pictures of members of the House of Assembly, like 5 of them, going there and walking around and meeting these women who are, or families who have lost their loved ones.
On a fact-finding mission.
Need I mention too that the #1 citizen of Nigeria decided to go to Benue, rather than the reception to be one that showed that people had died and filled with a lot of compassion and sober. Yeah. It showed a celebratory mood where children were even kept under the rain, waving and telling him welcome. And then you had a lot of, pomp and pageantry along the line. Not just that, while he was trying to go to the area where the incidents, the atrocities were committed, he couldn't get there. So they stopped and they had a tete-a-tete with the people of that particular area. Where are we going with all of this? The point is, while we do not support people, in quotes, talking and passing out misinformation and disinformation, we also want to speak to the National Assembly that they too, they need to do what they are ought to do.
Exactly, and prioritize.
That's it.
Prioritize. A rumor of a death does not mean you should deploy national security assets to deal with. There are bigger fishes to fry. But let's move on to our last wake-up, if we do have time for that. The United States President is in the news again. It's always in the news, for different reasons. United States President Donald Trump has announced an expansion of travel restrictions on 12 countries, describing the move as a decisive step to strengthen national security. According to the administration, the affected nations including...
Drum rolls.
Yeah. Nigeria.
Finally.
Syria and Burkina Faso were identified based on security assessments, citing concerns such as weak vetting processes and ongoing security challenges. Trump stated that the decision is aimed at tightening border controls and preventing potential threats, stressing that the policy is driven by national security considerations rather than race or religion. The announcement has triggered widespread reactions, both at home and abroad, reigniting debates over immigration policy, global relations, and the balance between security and international engagement. Countries with full U.S. entry ban are Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea. And then the new updated list includes Mali, Syria, Niger, South Sudan, Burkina Faso, and Palestinian territories. I thought Nigeria was on the list.
Yeah, Nigeria is there. Nigeria is included.
Nigeria.
And Nigeria is included on the list. It's very sad, Benga. Let me quickly mention something to our viewers. Let's go to if you go to the White House website, okay? If you go to the website, the information on there, you'd find that Nigeria is also mentioned. Now, let me quickly read this. It says, Nigeria, under Nigeria, you'd find the statement. It says, radical Islamic terrorist groups such as Boko Haram and the Islamic State operate freely in certain parts of Nigeria, which creates substantial screening and vetting difficulties. According to the Overstay report, please, you might want to listen to this one. Nigeria had a B1, B2 visa overstay rate of 5.56% and an F, M, and J visa overstay rate of 11.90%. Point number 2. The entry into the United States of nationals of Nigeria as immigrants and as non-immigrants on B1, B2, B1, B2, FM, and J visas is hereby suspended. 3. Consular officers shall reduce the validity for any other non-immigrant visa issued to nationals of Nigeria to the extent permitted by law. Bom Quem. What are we saying here? We're saying that getting to the United States henceforth will now be very difficult for you
it's always
as
been
a Nigerian. Now it's going to be even more difficult because the immigration rules have changed now as soon as that pen has been put to paper. And what is the reason? I just read some of the reasons, highlighting it for you. And the key one that stood out for me, it says, it mentioned radical Islamic terrorist groups operate freely.
So are those radical Islamic groups, are they interested in traveling to the United States?
It said it creates a substantial screening and vetting difficulties, because you can't really tell if people are traveling because they want to travel, or they are running away from the radical Islamic terrorist groups that are committing atrocities using either their B1, B2 visas or their tourist visas. But when they get there, look at the overstay rate. The overstay rate is high because they don't want to go back.
5% is not high.
No, Gbenga, hold on. 5.56% of B1, B2, and then you have F, M, and J, of course, which also has to do with the media if you're going for whatever and so on. Overstay of 11.90%. It wasn't like that before.
And so you need to scrutinize your vetting process.
But that's what they've done.
And now try to ban.
But that's what is, well, it doesn't mean, let me take point number 3, says, consular officers shall reduce the validity for any other non-immigrant visa issued to nationals of Nigeria to the extent permitted by law. So it doesn't mean that it's
Nigerians can't go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the United States is hosting the World Cup next year. And during the draws, they refused visas to Iranian officials. I mean, that's bringing politics into sports. And they're also saying that they will not grant some players visas. There's a reason why you're given the hosting right. And football is a uniting factor. It brings the world together. It's called the beautiful game. And I don't understand why FIFA should allow this. If you're not going to be a host, I'm not saying you shouldn't vet or you should just throw your doors open to everyone, but playing politics with who you're going to let into the country and all of that is really...
I'm going to believe that President Trump has also been moved by the recent issue that took place in Australia. You know, but let's see what Nigerians are saying very quickly as we look forward to wrap up Wake Up Conversations and jump into the main show. Pato says, like I've said several times, more Western countries will take drastic steps to limit entry into their territories. If you like, collect 10K and a sausage and vote the wrong people into sensitive positions.
I thought it was 5K.
I thought it was 3.5. I thought it was 3K. The majority of the countries banned by Trump were Muslim majority nations. This was less about national security and more a policy disguised to exclude Muslims from entering America. Muslims in the West are routinely targeted, framed as terrorists, silenced when they speak out, and then collectively punished through bans. All of this simply because they refuse to abandon their religious values or assimilate into what is presented as modern culture. That is the thoughts of Aliyu Isa Muhammad. Let's take another tweet very quickly as we look forward to wrap things up here on Wake Up Conversations. Black Genius says, Burkina Faso will respond tomorrow. Wait for the huge travel ban on American citizens to Burkina Faso. It's surely coming, and she believes it will definitely come. Masterpiece says, we hope he'll learn to rest and stop interfering with the affairs of our country now and focus on his heaven United States and allow our country, Nigeria, to be so we can focus on solving the problems of our country. That's all we're going to take, and that's all we're going to take on Wake Up Conversations. Don't forget, we're streaming live. Log on and follow us and watch us live on Facebook, also on YouTube, and drop a comment or two on YouTube. We always take your comments as we progress with the show. Let's take a look at what the top stories are for today on Breakfast Central.
Arrest over corruption allegation. An ICPC confirms receipt of Dangote's petition against NMDPRA CEO. Reps demand transparency and probe over detained NAF aircraft in Burkina Faso. And remember that we'll be bringing you the newspaper front pages where you can call in and share your thoughts with us. Breakfast Central continues shortly.
Welcome to Breakfast Central. This morning we have a number of conversations and we're streaming live on YouTube. News Central TV Live is where you can join the conversation. But we're starting off with what has become one of the most controversial and biggest conversations in the past few days. Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, has filed a formal petition with the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, calling for the arrest, investigation, and prosecution of the managing director of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Engineer Farouk Ahmed.
According to the petition submitted through Dangote's legal counsel, Dr. Ogu James Onoja, senior advocate of Nigeria, the NMDPRA boss is accused of living far beyond his official means, including allegedly paying over $7 million in advanced tuition fees for his 4 children in Switzerland.
Well, this comes amid rising tensions between Dangote Group and NMDPRA over regulatory bottlenecks, particularly around the importation of refined petroleum products and licensing delays that have reportedly affected the Dangote refinery's operations. Let's look into this conversation as the implications are indeed on the front burner. And we'll look at the development. We have Dr. Nameka Biarari, who's joining us, an investment banker and economist. Thank you so much for making time out to speak to us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right. I'm sure you have been following the drama. Many have called it a rather mild drama between 2 persons who over time have not in any way worn the same trousers. They've been in disagreement from time memorial since the start of the Dangote refinery. But then again, my question to you is, what do you make of the fact that public office holders are oftentimes pointed or fingered at the exorbitant lifestyle, spending and so on? And this time, it's done by the president of Dangote, that's Aliko Dangote himself.
I think firstly, we must separate the 2 issues here. The issues of the authority chief of NMDPRA living above his means is a different issue from the issues of his office as a regulator, who, as much as possible, have tried to implement the provisions of the PIA. The laws are very, very clear. I'm very, very sure when he was appointed as the authority chief executive of NDPRA, he submitted his asset declarations in the CCB form. It's left for the authorities, Mr. President, the petroleum minister, and the reporting petroleum minister, the person he's reporting to, and the EFCC and the Code of Conduct Bureau to conduct separate investigation to ascertain issues concerning that. But on the other issue of regulation, and which, because people have asked this question, when the president of Dangote wake up to discover that this man had been living above his means? Is it because he's standing his ground to ensure that nothing wrong is done in the industry, or is it because the man have refused to capitulate to regulator capture? We must separate the 2 issues. Nigerians are very, very emotional and sentimental. People have refused to look at the issues separately. These are 2 separate issues. Now, I want us to address the major issue which affects you and I, and that is the issue of the brickbats between NDPRA and Aliko Dangote. I am a player in this industry. By the special grace of God, I've lived over 50 years in Nigeria. I have worked over 25 years in the oil and gas industry and banking industry, and I understand the whole value chain excellently compared to what's happening in other parts of the world. The argument is, the crux of the matter, which has angered the Dangote refinery, is that the NDPRA issued import permit to marketers to bring in products first quarter 2026. The argument of Dangote refinery is that by the provisions of the PIA, if domestic refinery meets domestic consumption, that no new licenses will be issued. But we all know in this market and operationally that the Dangote refinery is not producing anything even up to 30-40% of the domestic consumptions in Nigeria. And that is the reality, and that is the truth. And we must put this in focus. And we must also understand that in a country like Nigeria, yes, it is good to support domestic operators. It is good to support local entrepreneurship. But we must also understand the overarching interest of the average Nigerian. How do we reduce the cost of energy, the cost of petroleum products, down to where it was before the madness started in 2015? We are not the only oil-producing country in the whole world. We have contemporaries. I always use Brazil as an example. Brazil was suffering the same kind of things that we were suffering today: corruption, inefficiencies, brickbat between operators and regulators, before the Brazilian government put their feet on the ground and unbundled the whole sector. Today, Brazilians are reaping the fruit of that reform. Brazil has crude oil reserve of 15.5 billion barrels. Today, they produce on a daily basis 3.8 million barrels of crude. They have 19 refineries in Brazil that refines 2.4 million barrels of white petroleum products. Brazilians' consumption of white petroleum products on average is about 1.92 million barrels. So Brazil produces almost 2 times what they consume. Yet, and I want it to be noted here, in 2024, Brazil allowed imports of over $23.2 billion worth of petroleum products. In fact, $15.2 billion worth of gasoline and gas oil, and $8.7 billion worth of crude oil. And this is a country that is a net producer of crude, a net producer of refined products. Why did they allow that? They allowed it because they understood clearly that despite the fact that they have 19 refineries operated by local, and note again, Petrobras is owned 72% by private investors and only 28% by the Brazilian government. The same call we have put upon the federal government to onboard NMDPRA and allow it to have the same ownership and operational structure to enable us introduce efficiency and accountability in this industry. Why did the Brazilians allow? America has 130 refineries. They refine 18 million barrels of crude every day. In fact, the American aviation industry consumes 2 million barrels of crude, refined products, ATK every day. Yet, Americans allow import of products. Even Saudi Arabia imports refined petroleum products from Dangote. Why do we say so? See, we must be very, very careful to eliminate emotions and sentiment. I believe in supporting productivity of local entrepreneurs. You subsidize production, you give incentives, you give. I've in your studio here many times shared practically the structural dynamics on how we can bring together the operators in the downstream oil and gas sector, those in the refinery, those depot operators and owners, the haulagers, the vessel owners and truckers, and the retail stations, over 23,000 of them. I have shared with us here creatively how it works in other clients and how we can link up these 4 groups to work in a very cordial and profitable manner that does not impact the pocket of the average Nigerian. And not again in Brazil. Despite all these things, minimum wage in Brazil is 400,000 naira equivalent. A liter of PMS in Brazil is 1,600 naira equivalent. Minimum wage in Brazil can buy 250 liters of PMS. Minimum wage in Nigeria cannot even buy up to 60 liters of PMS. And the purchasing power of the average Brazilian is about 15 million naira. That of average Nigerian is less than 1.5 million. So we need to put this thing in context. If the battle is, Farouk is corrupt, let the authorities handle it. But on this issue of regulation, on this issue of trying to avoid one regulator capture, on this issue of trying to avoid and stop monopoly, abusive monopoly, I think I align slightly with the authorities at NMDPRA. And we must be very, very careful here. There's this argument, Aliko Dangote refinery is too big, it's a private asset. Dangote refineries have OPL licenses. They should also take out time to explore and produce crude to serve themselves. And Nigeria is not the only market. You know, this crab mentality of fighting among ourselves is something I would not appreciate.
All right.
I expect those in authority to come together to see how we can work and bring together all the operators to enable us dominate the over 800 million man Southern African market.
Okay, just to now, piggyback on what you've said. You talked about how if this is an issue about avoiding regulations, you're definitely in support of the regulatory authorities. There are those who would argue that what Dangote has done is in some measure, yes, I mean, you spoke to monopoly as well, so I want you to address that. Because there are those who would argue that what Dangote has done is what successive governments have been trying to do and have not yet been able to do with all our refineries. With the number of refineries that we have, still not being able to meet the demand of petrol. Now, the latest update is that they've cut it from 828 naira to 699 naira. That's about 129 naira cut in the gantry, and that will start to feel the effect in the coming days. So the average Nigerian just wants to buy petrol at a cheaper rate. They want to be able to have access to products when they need it. But you're speaking to monopoly. So help us find the balance in the middle of all of this.
Okay, let me address this. Why did he not cut it down to 600 naira per liter? Why did he leave it at 699 from 828? At what point did he wake up to realize that 805 was arbitrary, was manipulative, was extortionist to bring it down to 6993? At what point, and what was the reason behind it? You see, Nigerians need to investigate and ascertain the truth before taking sides. Like I said, I have nothing against. You see, when we talk about, you remember the former CBN governor, Emefiele. I hope the press should be able to review this. In 2023, when that refinery was being commissioned, Emefiele gleefully regaled Nigerians on how the CBN supported massively that construction of that refinery, and how over 70% of the debts borrowed to finance it was repaid, even when that refinery has not produced a liter of the crude. I'm a project financier, I'm an investment bank, and I know that in project financing, when you're doing a project finance, you normally give 2-3 year moratorium to enable the project begin to produce. But a miraculous way in Nigeria, a project that have not even begin to refine 1 liter, repaid 70% of the capital funds borrowed to finance it. We are all aware in this country what happened between 2015 to 2023. The federal government of Nigeria as a bank wholly and fully supported the building of that refinery through concessionary naira loans, through FS allocations in billions of dollars at official rate, when we had a gap between the official rate and the parallel market rate of over 200 naira. The federal government, so we expect the same support. We have many Nigerians holding licenses. If the federal government of Nigeria should extend the same support, the same incentive, the same boost to other operators in the downstream oil and gas sector, I think by now we should have been thinking about 10, 15 refineries operating in Nigeria. While we appreciate what he has done, we must also appreciate the overall interest of Nigerians is what we must consider. I have shared with us here practically how we can put in place a crude oil production, crude oil allocation, refine arrangement, distribution arrangement that will crash the price of a liter of the PMS, gasoline, gas oil, to about 500 naira per liter, while all the players within that industry makes their margin. There is no company, no matter the ownership, that is too big to be regulated. The question is, what is the reason for this fight? Why must, let me ask this question, why must an entity insist that other players must be exited from the industry? I ask this question. Rotterdam, Netherlands does not have crude oil like Nigeria. Greece does not have crude oil like Nigeria. South Korea does not have crude oil like Nigeria, but they have refineries. How can a refinery in Rotterdam, a refinery in Greece, a refinery in South Korea buy crude oil from the international market, refine it and ship it 7,000 kilometers to Nigeria, and it still sells cheaper than products that were refined in Nigeria with crude in Nigeria that did not incur any logistics costs in moving those products? It's a question Nigerians should be asking themselves. Brazil is a tree. We cannot reinvent the wheel. In Brazil, with crude oil output of 3.8 million barrels a day, in Brazil, with 19 refineries, refining production that is 2 times their consumption, could allow import of $23.9 billion worth of products from Saudi Arabia, from the US, from Russia. Why is somebody scared of us allowing such healthy competitiveness? I give you an example. Chivita in Nigeria. There was a time 5 Alive was dominated. People were importing 5 Alive and every kind of junk. The Lebanese came in, started Chivita. At the time, Chivita became cheaper and had better quality than 5 Alive. The owners of Coca-Cola, what they did was to buy into Chivita 55%. That is how it is done. If I am we know what we can do. Dangote refinery, by the virtue of its size, by the virtue of its location, is supposed to produce a refined crude cheaper than any refinery. If any refinery or any marketer is, what we should be talking about is the quality of the products coming in. If the quality of the products coming in is the same thing as that of Dangote, we should allow it to come in. Competition will enhance effectiveness. The only thing we will do is that we will find a way of subsidizing production and supporting local producers. But to do a blanket ban and allow one man control the whole economy is dangerous to the headness of our economy.
Now, Dr. Obiari, just yesterday, the man in the eye of the storm, the MP, NMDPRA boss, Farouk Ahmed, did issue a statement saying that he's open to investigation. He also said that 3 of his 4 children in Switzerland enjoy merit-based scholarship that ranges from 40 to 65%. The essence of this is that, he says he's worked really hard, he's saved money, he's been in public service for over 30 years and has also made investments. So we're hearing one side of the story and the other side of the story. What should the government do at this point in time to clear the air? Because there are serious allegations that have been made, and Nigerians are waiting for a proper response because the implications are wide-reaching.
The truth is that Farouk Ahmed is in the eye of the storm because unfortunately he stepped on the toes of bigger fishes. Farouk Ahmed is just one out of the over 1 million Nigerians that operate in the public sector, both in the civil service and appointed officials. If we want to be honest and sincere to ourselves, if you are to subject every of the public servants in Nigeria to forensic investigation, 99% of them will fall within the same category. I've said it here. 90% of the properties in the high-brow areas or in Nigeria, from Banana Island to Maitama to Ashokoro to other places, are owned by public servants. The average Nigerian public servant, 99% of them live above their means, and that is the truth. And if we want to checkmate it, we need to do a holistic overhaul. We need to put in place, we've made suggestions. There's other side reports out there. There's other reports out there on how we can stop this nonsense. I've said it here. If we are very, very sincere, we should make asset declaration of public servants public. We should create an e-portal where before you assume office as a public official, even those of them from grade level 8 and above, every year before the end of the year, you go to so you submit you upload your CCB declarations. You upload what you own and what you owe in a very transparent manner. Number 2, we should also empower the CCB to put in place a whistle-blowing provision where if every Nigerian helps to blow, just like Aliko Dangote is blowing whistle now, if every Nigerian helps to blow a whistle that indicts a public official and help us recover an asset, 20% of the recovery will be given to him, compulsory, and that makes every Nigerian an EFCC official because there will be no hiding place. And number 3, when we make this declaration public, in America, when Obama became president of America, Obama declared his assets and liabilities publicly. We knew what he owned and what he owed. When Obama retired, left office, we knew what he owned, and he declared clearly how he made those monies. In America, now, if you want to check any American public official, those of people, it's very easy for you to know what they own and what they own. In Nigeria, it's very, very difficult, and we know this truth. When we put in place these checkmate valves, but the truth is, who will bear the cat? You and I know that National Assembly will not pass such laws. You and I know that even the accusers of Farouk Ahmed will not agree for such provisions, and that is the truth. The truth, like I said, let us separate the two issues. I am not a defender of corruption and iniquity in Nigeria. I hate corruption with every fiber of blood in me. But what I want is the right thing to be done. If he's guilty, let him be investigated, let him be prosecuted. The same thing too, 99% of the police officers, I can bet my finger. If you subject even his accusers and each and every one of them to the same forensic investigation, none of them will come out guiltless. But let us separate the issues of what he has done or what he's been accused of and look at the issues of regulation, the issues of the healthiness of our industry. In fact, in Nigeria today, what we should be thinking about, Michael and Obafemi Awolowo should have been thinking, how do we ramp up Nigerian crude oil output to 4 million barrels a day? We used to do 2.8 million barrels in 2010. How do we support other operators in the industry, from refinery to depot owners to haulage operators to filling stations operators to reduce the cost of production and the cost of white petroleum products in Nigeria? How do we increase refining capacity of Nigeria to 2.53 million barrels a day, so that we can take over the whole 800 million man Southern Africa market? How do we bring together the workings between the refinery, Aliko Dangote refinery, other refineries, and the depot owners and IPMAN and DAPMAN members, so that they can work? Let me tell you, all over the world, and I've said this, I will give you an example where I'm very, 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 very agitated. Nigeria is the only place. You remember when Olusegun Obasanjo told us how he supported Aliko Dangote in cement and other cement players, how he banned other cement importers and allowed him control of the cement, supported him, gave him incentives and everything. Today, the senior cement producers in China, that is 10 times bigger than Dangote, go and check their EBT, the earnings before interest, tax, and allowance, is average of 21%. Nigeria is the only place where cement producers are making over 58% profit before tax. It's exploitative. And Nigerian cement production is practically over 90% domestic raw material supply. So how come Nigeria is the only place in the whole wide world where cement producers are having profits before tax rate of 58%, whereas all over the world the average is about 21-25%. There are no consumer protections in Nigeria. And anything, I expect us to be asking ourselves, what do we do to bring down the price of the PMS, gas oil, and diesel, and other things to 500 naira and below per liter? What do we do to catalyze productivity? What do we do to ensure that Nigerian businesses take over the whole 800 million man Sub-Saharan Africa market? That should be our discussion. So that this crap war, Dangote fighting that man fighting Dangote, and all those stuff. Oh, I'm going to bring 10,000 CNG trucks and blah, 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 blah. If you succeed in destroying 128 depot owners, investments worth over 300 billion naira, and over 100,000 jobs, what is the benefit for Nigeria? How do we reduce the number of poor people in Nigeria from 197 million to less than the 10 million it was 30 years ago? It's a question we should be asking. All this bickering and fighting is not the only way out. I expect the authorities, the president, and everybody to sit down. If they don't know how to do it, some of us have created templates on how we can help them execute this. But of course, in Nigeria, the pharaohs and Nebuchadnezzars do not look for those who have the ideas and who can help them. They believe and push most of their ideas based on clannishness and nepotism. And that is why we are where we are today.
Okay, you said you expect the president to the person to sit down. Let's ask, how you think that dispute resolution and going forward will look like. We've seen the House of Representatives also have stepped into the arena, civil societies have also made certain calls. So what would be the format for how you think this would be resolved?
Okay, I read about the invitation by the National Assembly. I can tell you only if nothing will come out of it. It's the same story. They'll just call them, then do their everybody walks away. The truth is, if we want this market to work, all over the world, refinery margins are very thin. It's between 5-15%. The only refineries globally who are making margins over 21-25% are those that are integrated, like the Chevrons and the Shell that integrate crude production to refinery. So I've shared with us here, confidentially, openly, how we can make Nigeria work. We have a 445,000 barrels that was supposed to be given to the three moribund local refineries. The federal government should work out an arrangement between Dangote, DAPMAN, depot operators, that is IPMAN, and the retail owners. We can have a special arrangement, set up a special arrangement where those crude will be allocated to Dangote at $41 or $45 per barrel. He will not put a margin of more than 15-20% based on global practice. Then the depot owners will not put their own margin more than 10%. The arrangement that he will not sell the products through the value chain except through the depot owners and operators, and minimum sales of at least 10-15 million liters per bulk sales, so they can move it through the storage centers for ease of distribution. And then the haulage owners and retailer will put their margin. Only if under this special arrangement, we've worked it out. If they adopt this measure for domestic consumption and production, a liter of the PMS, a liter of the diesel, a liter of the ATK, within the next 6 months, we sell for less than 500 naira per liter. And it will stop these skirmishes. Dangote and all the other refineries coming up will have opportunity of selling over to the West African countries, to Southern African countries. See, we have the power and capacity and energy and resources to dominate and become the supply hub of Southern Africa. But we must stop this bickering. We must come to provide creative solutions on how we can all work together. And that is where government and the knowledge steps in. If those in authority cannot do it, they can invite some of us to come and help them. And we'll put in place a structure that will protect every stakeholder. Because what do we want to do? We want to boost productivity. We want to help Mr. President achieve his $1 trillion sized economy in the next 5 years. We want an all-inclusive, prosperous country that will enable the man in Aba to buy a liter of fuel for 300 naira, 500 naira per liter to enable him power. I better pass my neighbor. If Nigeria is able to ramp up crude oil at 3 million barrels a day, and we meet our open quota, 1.7, 1.6 million barrels a day, the remaining can be refined there in Nigeria. In Brazil, in Saudi Arabia, in other oil-producing countries, they do everything humanly possible to reduce energy costs and energy prices within their economy. And this is what we should all be collectively thinking and pursuing, and not this bickering left and right and trying to destroy each other over nothing.
Now, Dr. Berry, when, realistically speaking, when would we be able to stop the importation of refined products? Because they say what we're looking for in Sokoto is now Sokoto. We are an oil-producing nation, and we have abundant reserves. We also have 4 refineries, and there's talks of more private refineries in the offing to save much-needed FX and also get the most out of the value chain instead of being a net exporter of crude. We can also look inwards and also supply the West African sub-region and indeed the whole world this refined products. Is it something that can happen within the next decade?
Okay, let me cover here. You see, this argument we always make, when do we stop importation of white petroleum products into Nigeria? It's shocking because I don't know how we think the way we think in Nigeria. I've mentioned to you here, you know, what Nigeria produces is the Brent crude, the light crude. The light crude that is produced in Nigeria is not sufficient to produce the huge volume of base oil that is required to produce lubricants. The only refinery in Nigeria that was producing huge stock of base oil was the Kaduna refinery. And Kaduna refinery was constructed to consume heavy crude. And that was why we are importing heavy crude from Venezuela. The Kaduna refinery was not configured to refine the light crude from Nigeria. And we must understand that. There are diverse range of derivative products that come out of crude. Saudi Arabia produces over 10 million barrels of crude every day. Saudi Arabia has 81 refineries. How come Saudi Arabia is importing aviation fuel from Dangote? Have we bothered to ask ourselves that question? America refines 18 million barrels of crude every day. America has 130 refineries. Why is America importing aviation fuel from Dangote refinery? Have we bothered to ask that question? Our fixation should not be, oh, how do we ban importation? Our fixation should be, this is of FS scarcity. Because we most of those who report to governors do not even understand economics and management like MKO, like Michael Obama. If today Nigeria is producing 4 million barrels of crude every day, if today Nigeria is refining 2.5 million barrels of crude every day, if today Nigeria is generating 250, 300, 500 billion dollars from the agri sector, just like Netherlands is doing 1 to 2 billion euros, and net, we are generating over $1 trillion into this economy. Even if we are importing $300 billion worth of crude petroleum product, we will have a net FX reserve of $700 billion, which will enable our naira to gain. It's a simple law of demand and supply. We are all making this argument because we're a very unproductive economy. We have allowed insecurity, we have allowed incompetencies, we have allowed mediocrity to permeate our public sector space. Between 1970 to 1970, we never had this argument. We were importing everything we wanted to import to catalyze productivity. Today, we know you need the aviation fuel, you need the heavy crude to produce base oil and other derivatives, which our light crude could not produce. So will you say, okay, because we do not produce light crude, because we are producing 3 million barrels of light crude every day, we cannot import heavy crude? Are the Brazilians stupid and silly, despite the fact that they are producing more crude oil than they are consuming, despite the fact that they are refining more than they are consuming? Are they stupid to allow the importation of $8.7 billion worth of crude oil and $15.3 billion worth of gasoline and gas oil? Is Nigerian economy bigger than Brazilian economy? Today, as of 1970, Nigerian GDP per capita was $532. Brazilian GDP per capita was $329. We are bigger than Brazil in 1970. Today, Brazilian GDP per capita is $10,200. Nigerian GDP per capita is just about $1,000 after we have rebased because we have refused to be productive. Between 1960 to 1970, when we had a productive nation, we were ahead of Indonesia, we were ahead of Brazil, we were ahead of Malaysia, we were ahead of South Korea. Today, we are competing with Yemen, with Afghanistan, with other debased countries because we have refused to do the right thing. We have allowed the few elites to manipulate us and to allow the elites to destroy this country. The issue is not allowing import of white petroleum products. The issue is putting in place the right regulator and operational framework to enable productivity to be catalyzed locally. That is what we should be discussing.
All right. I'm sure we'll come back to this conversation in the nearest future. Thank you so much, Dr. Biarri, for joining us and speaking with us. Maybe the next time we'll have you, we'll talk about the 2025 revenue target by the federal government. They say it's falling short by over 30 trillion naira. That's a different and separate conversation I would like to have you on. But thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right. You're still watching Breakfast Central. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at more stories, and definitely we'll be talking to more guests who will be joining us pretty soon. Stay with us.
For Central, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has announced a staggering recovery of 37.44 billion naira and $2.35 million in 2025 alone. These recoveries came through asset seizures and forfeitures, making it one of the Commission's most significant annual hauls to date. But what does this mean for the fight against corruption? Is this a turning point or just another headline?
Well, take note that this comes in as the ICPC also confirmed on Tuesday that it has received a formal petition from Aliko Dangote through his lawyer against the CEO of the NMDPRA, Alhaji Farouk Ahmed, over misuse of public funds for personal purposes. Well, besides that, there are also many other cases that has gotten Nigerians wondering if truly the ICPC is a body that fights corruption. But let's not just ask these questions. Let's ensure that we hear from the horse's mouth. And to unpack this, we have the head of media and public communications at the ICPC, Mr. John Oko-Ode, who joins us live from our Abuja studios. Good morning, and thank you so much for being here. Okay, so I think the very first question in our quest to ensure and find out if the anti-graft agencies are truly at war with corruption, or it's a case of selective, in quotes, amnesia, as some have put it, when it comes to fighting corruption. Can you please help us with the confirmation that the ICPC are indeed ready and set to ensure that it clears Nigeria of corruption, regardless of who, whether your status is that of a national office holder, public servant, or a senior advocate? It doesn't matter. Can you help us with that, if it's really true?
The answer to that is pretty simple. There is no record anywhere to show that the ICPC has done otherwise. The ICPC was set up to do just that, and it is doing it and will continue to do so. I am not aware of any accusation against the ICPC that the ICPC has ever shied away from carrying out that responsibility. The ICPC is poised to continue the fight against corruption, regardless of who you are. The acts setting up the ICPC does not say it should be selective. It therefore is not selective. As long as the matter is in the interest of the Nigerian people and the Nigerian state, and it is brought to the attention of the ICPC, or the ICPC finds out on its own through evidence-led investigations, through petitions, through whatever means. The ICPC, under the leadership of its previous chairman and this present chairman, Dr. Musa Adamu Aliu,
thank you very much,
is ready and has always been ready to fight corruption without fear or favor. It has not changed, and I don't see it changing anytime soon.
All right. Thank you very much for that confirmation again. But now let's get into the details. 37.44 billion naira, $2.35 million in 2025 alone. Let's talk about, if you can give us a breakdown of the sectors that these recoveries came from and the individuals that were involved in the looting of these assets.
Well, I cannot give you a breakdown of the sectors or the individuals involved. I can only tell you that these recoveries represent values that come from forfeitures, that come from traced assets, that come from restrained assets. Through the ICPC's attempt to block illicit financial flow or efforts to block illicit financial flow, to trace projects, constituency and executive projects, and to restrain public funds from being diverted or converted to personal funds or other sources. The detail you're asking for, I do not have the authority to release.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I cannot give you the specific details you're asking for.
Okay. Without going into specific details, we would like to know how much or how these assets, how the haul was calculated, the figures that were given. How much percentage of that record haul is in cash, and also how is the calculation done? Because are you also adding a valuation of the assets that were recovered, the physical assets that were recovered to this record haul? And what made it a record year? Why is it different from last year?
Okay, permit me to look at our performance infographics here. Now, actually, based on projects appropriated for in the national budget, other issues that were reported to us, transactions that were reported to us, the ICPC set a target for itself, which was about 80 billion, looking at issues surrounding what was presented. And at the end of November, this recovery does not include December. At the end of November, this was what was recovered. In terms of Naira value and the dollar you saw there. So that was exactly what happened. And if you look at 37.44 billion compared to 80 billion, we are saying there's still a lot we have to do. And we are not going to rest. We'll continue doing that.
So what 80 billion, just to clarify, what 80 billion are we comparing it to? Because I know that in 2024, the reports were that you recovered 29.7 billion naira. So just to help with the clarification of that.
The 80 billion was what we set out to look for from the reports we got for this year. But so far, 37 billion have been recovered. There are other cases that are still ongoing. That is why I cannot talk about some of them. Some of them are in court. So I'm restrained. Okay. Some of them are in court, but by the time they are determined, we are still in December. December has not ended. Maybe these figures will rise. But what we have here is as at November. Okay. All right. Beyond these recoveries, we have a lot of monies being recovered here and there. And one would ordinarily wonder, yet the presidency still goes ahead to, borrow money and so on and so forth. So can you share with us these recovered assets or monies? Are they given to the government? Depending on the court's case or judgment, are they returned to those who own them? And is it reinvested in one way or the other back to the public? Because we've barely seen any information from the ICPC, especially press releases that highlights the fact that XYZ properties were recovered
and thereby they'll be put out on auction or whichever way. So do you want to help us with that?
For properties that are recovered, those that have final forfeiture on them and we have court order to auction, we advertise. And we get auctioners to bid for and auction these properties. We always advertise them. If you go to our website, you will see them. They are always made public. And as to where these recoveries, whether the recoveries go to the government or the people or other people, there are processes involved in managing recoveries. Clearly spelled out processes. You recover, it goes into the recovery account, and it goes to government. That's what the ICPC does. What the government does thereafter with it is up to the government. If the court says it should go back to ABC sources from where it was initially taken, the ICPC obeys the court order. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, there's a recovery account with the CBN, and it goes there.
All right. Now, beyond the recovery of funds, there was also some good news, at least for members of your staff, and it said that for the very first time, I'm trying to get the exact, yes, the cost of living adjustment, that you successfully secured the cost of living adjustment for, to improve welfare for your staff. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes, I can tell you about that. Before now, the cost of living adjustment allowance was not something that the ICPC enjoyed. No, there is inflation. We all know that there is inflation in the system. And usually the government, not just the government of Nigeria, governments all over the world, try to cushion inflation for public servants. I think it also happens in the private sector. I do not work in the private sector, so I do not know. But I think it also happens where from time to time, to enable workers have a sense of belonging and reduce the stress on them, give them some little comfort, certain allowances are created to cushion the effect of inflation. In the public sector, it is called cost of living adjustments allowance. Cost of living allowance to enable public servants adjust to the realities of inflation and the dwindling value of their earnings. So I have been in the ICPC for 20 years. And in those 20 years, we never got what is called cost of living adjustment or allowance, cost of living allowance. There were some other allowances. Other chairmen did their best to try and make us as comfortable as they possibly could do. But for the first time in my 20 years in the ICPC, the present chairman, Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu, and his team secured for us from the federal government the cost of living adjustment allowance, which some other government ministries, departments, and agencies had been enjoying, which we did not enjoy. But we are grateful that this time we got it.
Okay.
And we're hoping that, like other public servants elsewhere, we will continue to get that to enable us adjust to the realities of the inflation and see how we can, along with other Nigerians, manage the financial stress we find ourselves.
All right, and I think that that's a great initiative to put forward for your staff to ensure that they have a better quality of living. But I want to also now wrap this up by piggybacking to a question my colleague asked earlier when he was asking about how the monies are being disbursed and the recovered monies. And I think that question is important because we've seen several scenarios in this country where we hear about recovered funds and the headlines of recovered funds and people not knowing what exactly has happened to the recovered funds. So is there an avenue where this information is public, is made public for clarity and transparency?
The ICPC operates on the basis of transparency. Information approved that will not be sub judice, approved for public consumption, would always be on our website. As for where the money goes, I told you, all recoveries go into a recovery account. If there are further clarifications on this, rest assured that we will put it on our website and we will issue releases.
Okay. I just want to put up an image of politicians who recently have been allegedly involved in one form or the other of missing funds. And I'm sure you are aware. However, in most instances, we usually hear of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commissioner. By the way, he was supposed to join this conversation, but he had something else to attend to very quickly. I'm talking about the media officer for EFCC. But I mean, since you're here, sir, that's why we need to push this question to you very quickly. What's the role of ICPC to ensure that the pictures in which you see there on the screen, they take active part? You take active part in ensuring that prosecution, is met, especially when there's proof, and you're also involved in ensuring that litigations or court cases are indeed followed through. We barely hear of the ICPC ensuring that they follow through, especially with high office holders. Why is that so?
Looking at the faces here, without prejudice to the matters surrounding these individuals, I will tell you that matters that come to the ICPC and the ones that the ICPC finds out on its own, we follow them, we follow through. We investigate, we gather our facts, and we go to the courts. Some of these matters are in court. And sometimes when we find out, even if a petition comes to the ICPC, and we find out that the same petition, because Nigerians are eager to see results. They are eager to see that justice is done. And sometimes the petition to practically every anti-corruption agency, including the police and what have you, when petitions come like that, and we find out that, oh, what we have had already been sent to the EFCC or other agencies, and they are working on it, we have an interagency collaboration. In order not to waste government funds, it will be best sometimes to have a synergy where you coordinate your efforts, and if this agency is already handling it, you let the agency handle. We work together. So we do not necessarily have to be in front all the time. But for matters that come to us and we are handling, and if our sister agency finds out that we are handling, they let us handle. If we find out that we're handling before us, we let them handle. You cannot be running the same matter in two different courts. It wouldn't make sense. So there's a great synergy between the ICPC and other anti-corruption agencies, and matters that are within our purview, we follow them, we follow through, we try to see them to their logical conclusion. Some of them are in court, and the court processes are not as fast as we want them to be. But we are hoping that eventually cases will be dispensed with faster than they are now, when the challenges in the judiciary and our court systems are fixed. So otherwise, we work very well with our sister agencies.
All right. I want to say thank you so much for speaking with us. Head of Media and Public Communications of the ICPC, Mr. John Okoode. Thank you for your time. We look forward to speak with you again, and maybe by that time we'll also have the media spokesperson for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission joining that conversation. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll look into a very important conversation that's coming up next here on News Central's Breakfast Central. Stay with us.
The Supreme Court has affirmed the constitutional powers of the president to declare a state of emergency in any state and to suspend elected officials where necessary to restore law and order. In a 6-1 split decision delivered on Monday, the Apex Court held that Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution as amended grants the president the discretion to take extraordinary measures during an emergency, including the temporary suspension of governors, deputy governors, and state assemblies, provided such actions are limited in duration. The ruling followed the dismissal of a suit filed by 11 states challenging President Tinubu's declaration of emergency rule in Rivers State and the 6-month suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, as well as the lawmakers.
The court upheld objections by the Attorney General of the Federation and the National Assembly, ruling that the plaintiffs failed to establish a dispute warranting the Supreme Court's original jurisdiction. Now, join us this morning to dissect and analyze this is human rights lawyer Inibehe Effiong. Welcome to you, and thanks for joining us this morning. I mean, when the news broke yesterday, it sent ripples across civil society and the society and Nigeria at large. A lot of people were shocked at the gravity and the implications of this judgment. What's your opinion on on the Supreme Court judgment and its implications for our democracy?
Thank you for having me. Let me start by saying that when the Supreme Court of a country takes a position in a matter, especially one of serious constitutional implication, the Supreme Court's position becomes not only the law of the land, but the policy that governs the subject of adjudication. On the issue of state of emergency, before the Supreme Court intervened, legal scholars and constitutional experts, and indeed students of law, have engaged in a very intense debate on the powers of the president by virtue of Section 305 of the Constitution to proclaim a state of emergency and the incidents or the incidences of that emergency. In other words, the implications, the effects of the state of emergency. Now, with the determination of the Supreme Court declining jurisdiction on the one hand, on the substantive question placed before it, which the Apex Courts declined to answer. Namely, whether the specific proclamation made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu suspending the governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, and the House of Assembly, led by Amawele, for 6 months, was constitutional, and whether the president, in the exercise of his power,
has the powers
suspend the executive and legislative organs of government at the states.
Is it not now inferred, now that they've given a judgment in that regard?
Now, I came with a copy of what has been made public, titled Summary of the Majority Judgment delivered by Mohammed Baba Idris, JSC. The Honorable Justices, my lords, in a split decision, 6-1.
6-1.
Quite remarkable. took a position that, yes, Section 305 permits the president in making a proclamation to take extraordinary measures. However, the ramifications of the said measures are not explicitly provided for under the Constitution, thereby allowing the president the leverage or some sort of latitude or discretion, if you may, to regulate that emergency in terms of setting the measures. Now, on the direct question, as I said, I have read the printed summary of the majority decision, which is the decision of the court. My take home is that while the Supreme Court did not directly, I want to emphasize directly, respond to the Rivers issue, the Supreme Court did not make any pronouncement based on what I have here on the specific issue in Rivers. The Apex Court declined making a definite pronouncement on it, but generally on the concept of state of emergency. The reasoning of the court is that because Section 305 does not delineate or circumscribe the extraordinary measure that the president may take, it does appear from the reading of this printed summary that allowance is given for interference with executive and legislative organs of government during a state of emergency.
Subject to the president's discretion.
Subject to parliamentary regulation and judicial oversight.
All right, let's hold that thought. And when we come back from this break, we'll be looking at what the implication of this judgment is. This is still Breakfast Central, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still looking at the Supreme Court's judgment regarding the president's power to initiate not just state of emergency, but also to suspend executive governors, democratically elected executive governors. We're joined in the studio with constitutional lawyer and human rights advocate, Inebehe Effiong. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Always a pleasure.
Now let's go to the implication of what this means, because on the surface, people will think, okay, the Supreme Court has said the president can do this. He did it anyway. It's one thing for it to have been done, and then we've moved on from it. It's another thing for the Supreme Court to give relevance to it, to give legal backing, which is what the Supreme Court has done by this judgment. What's the implication of this?
No, let's be clear once again.
Okay.
On the Rivers emergency, the Supreme Court has not validated it. And that is the point I want people to understand.
They refused to make a pronouncement.
They declined. The Supreme Court didn't make a pronouncement.
But doesn't that fall into the category of this judgment that was given here to say that the president can, of course,
in terms of
enforcing his powers in Section 305, and then he can suspend democratically elected governors? Well,
like I said, if you read the way this printed summary, what the public has, what is available, the way it is couched, the Supreme Court was very careful. The learned justice of the Supreme Court who read the summary, my Lord Honorable Justice Mohammed Idris, a jurist of profound intellectual capacity, who some of us have been privileged to appear before, even while my Lord was in the lower courts at the Federal High Court in Lagos here. What the justices did was to give some sort of theory, constitutional theory, because they declined jurisdiction. Take note of that. When a court declines jurisdiction on a substantive matter, whatever opinion is rendered subsequent to declining jurisdiction is what we call obiter dicta. It doesn't have coercive force. Now, can the president suspend a House of Assembly? Can the president suspend a governor? The Supreme Court seems to say, well, that even in declaring emergency, there are certain safeguards. What I find very interesting is that the Supreme Court even went further to state the circumstances in which this emergency may be declared. And I find quite interestingly that, in my view, I haven't seen anything to show that in Rivers State those circumstances existed. It has to be in situations of war, natural disasters, and so on. And I didn't see, yes, if you check page 8, for example, under specific conditions, including war, imminent danger of invasion, actual or threatened breakdown of public order and safety, or other public danger threatening the exercise, the existence of the Federation. I didn't see any of these conditions in Rivers State. So if the Supreme Court had actually gone into the substantive matter, I am tempted to believe that they would have pronounced this particular emergency unconstitutional.
So
But the government says
jurisdiction
they anticipated a breakdown, that Rivers State was heading towards.
because of the
that.
bombing of pipelines.
Yes,
that,
and the political issues there.
No, there was no, the excuse of the president was untenable. If the president
So
was...
if you're using this as a threshold,
Yes.
within-
No, I'm saying that assuming what the president said had any stratum of logic, then most states in Nigeria should be under emergency today. As I speak, Kogi State shouldn't have a governor. Why is there House of Assembly in Kogi State today? Why? With the kidnappings, the killings? So if we are speaking about actual imminent breakdown of law and order, there are states in Nigeria, as we are having this conversation, that law has actually broken down. The schools have closed. But many schools in the north are no longer opening.
mass kidnappings
Benue?
of children.
Yes, so why are the governors still in office? The president acted in bad faith. The president didn't act in the public interest. The emergency in Rivers State was partisan. It was political. It was a hit job to empower Wike and castrate Fubara. And we have seen the effect of that. He has now joined the president in standing on the mandate.
Speaking about that, I mean, let's talk about. So, I wanted to ask you about the Supreme Court's. In fact, I have two questions in mind, but let me go back. I'll come to talk about Fubara in a bit. You've shared with us now that the Supreme Court declined jurisdiction to speak about the matter in Rivers State. So, where does jurisdiction now lie, and what's the fate of that? Is that an issue that will then be brought up again in a separate suit?
So there is another aspect of this where the learned justices stated that on the question of objection, right? If you check page 4, upon a careful examination of the plaintiff's questions and reliefs, it is clear that their grievance arose principally from the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, the suspension of the governor, deputy governor, and House of Assembly of that state, and the appointment of a sole administrator. However, none of the plaintiffs represents Rivers State, and neither did they establish any authority to litigate on his behalf. On his behalf. So the Supreme Court said the emergency did not take place in any of these 11 states. My own concern, with proper respect to my noble lords of the Supreme Court, is that going by the precedent in the case of Plateau State and precedent of the which was decided during the Obasanjo proclamation, the Supreme Court held profoundly so that the case could not have been brought at the time without the approval of the sole administrator, because he was the de facto, he was the one in charge of the administration of the state. So I am submitting to you this morning that there was no way in fact or in law that Rivers State, under the leadership that had been suspended, could have brought this action. So
they were gone already.
maybe Fubara, I had in my previous interview on this same station, advised that Fubara was in a better position to bring that action, except that he couldn't have approached the Supreme Court. He had to go to the Federal High Court. Now, one other quick point. In the printed summary that we have, the Apex Court made a very significant finding that the state of emergency, upon being proclaimed by the president, must receive the sanction, that is the approval, of both chambers of the National Assembly, voting by 2/3. In the case of the Senate, the Supreme Court highlighted the mode of voting, mentioned voice votes, subject to the right of a member to object. I don't know if you can determine percentage by voice votes. Is it about who is screaming louder? Is it about who is more vociferous? How do you determine who 2/3 by voice votes? The nays and the yeas. So it will not become a competition about who is louder. I don't think it is possible. But my Lord said that based on the standing orders, which is correct of the Senate, that they can actually vote by voice vote. And then the member has the right to object if that member feels that the verdict of the presiding officer is not reflective of the opinion of the majority. I have reservations about using voice votes to determine numerics. I don't think it's possible. Now, the Supreme Court also said they can use electronic voting. They can also do head counts. In the case of Rivers State, both the Senate and the House of Reps elected to vote by voice vote. And in the decision of the Supreme Court found that in the House of Reps, by their standing orders, they could only have voted. I will refer you to page 12. In the House of Representatives, Order 16 of the Standing Orders, 11th edition, governs consideration of proclamation of emergency. Voting modes are provided under Order 11, significantly Order 11.6, empower the Speaker with a matter of national concern to order a division with votes recorded by name, constituency, and choice, and published accordingly. A proclamation of a state of emergency is unquestionably a matter of national concern. This is the Supreme Court saying that in the House of Reps in particular, they could not have voted by voice vote. But in the proclamation in Rivers State, it was a voice vote that was used. So on that score, on that premise alone, what President Tinubu did in Rivers State is clearly unconstitutional. It is illegal. So this is even on the basis of the opinion of the Supreme Court. But as I said, my Lord declined to speak specifically about the Rivers matter. My Lord seems to have only gave a broad opinion on the concept of a state of emergency. So I am submitting to you that whether on the basis of the reasons that Section 305 envisages or on the procedure adopted, this particular emergency in Rivers State was illegal. Now, one other curious point. The Supreme Court also said that the proclamation has to be subject to legislative approval and oversight and judicial oversight. Igbo Kibas, who has now been rewarded handsomely with an ambassadorial position, has refused to submit himself to oversight. Not only did he treat the National Assembly with scorn when they tried to interface with him, he has also bluntly told the House of Assembly that he cannot recognize the authority. He cannot submit himself before them. And the Amawele House have come out to accuse him of misconduct. Their billions were frittered away from the Rivers State accounts. So what I am saying is that while it is good that my lords have made the point that state of emergency has to be subject to judicial and legislative oversight, this is a live example of failure of both judicial and legislative oversight on the fact that for the 6 months he was in office, the people of Rivers State have not been told how their resources were spent. They have not been told how contracts were awarded. So you cannot say that you will bring in a military man, somebody with a military background, to come and take over the governance of a state for 6 months. And nobody can ask him questions. He was even making ludicrous appointments. Nobody is able to ask any questions. So I am saying that we need to rethink our constitutional system in this country.
So many issues to unpack, but we have some sorts of breaking news now. We'll connect live with our correspondent in Kano State, who's on standby to give us reports on a developing story, Manuel Bagudu. But what we're hearing now is that we lost connection with him. We'll get back to him in the course of our conversation.
Okay, I want us to still now come back. You talked, a key part of your statement is how the Supreme Court declined to, speak about what's happened in Rivers State and to give a judgment regarding the legality or otherwise of the suspension in Rivers State. Now, how important is this going forward? Seeing that the person that you were fighting for, or the person that people were fighting for.
We didn't fight for Fubara.
Well, true.
Yes.
It wasn't about Fubara. It was about
for the rule of law.
Yeah.
It's about
the rule of law. How would you say, first of all, how do you feel about how things have panned out in Rivers State with Siminalayi Fubara having now linked himself and aligned himself with the ruling party? But sleep on that for a bit. Let's connect with our correspondent, Emmanuel Bagudu. Good morning, Emmanuel. Where are you and what is the cause of the protest?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead. All right. We will try to reconnect with Emmanuel Bagudu when we are done with this conversation. But now, back to you. Let's talk about why this is important and your thoughts regarding how things have played out in Rivers State.
It's very important because the question Nigerians should ask themselves this morning, what is stopping Tinubu from waking up from the wrong side of the bed one morning to remove the 36 state governors? Is there anything hindering him? So, look, I'm a minister in the Temple of Justice. All I can say is as the court pleases. And I say as the court pleases on this judgment. I can only bow to the Supreme Court. I cannot stand and challenge the Supreme Court. I cannot even criticize the Supreme Court. I have read the decision of the Supreme Court. And look, I'm not in a position to come and say that what the Supreme Court has said is wrong. No, God forbid I should come and castigate the Supreme Court. All I can tell you is that the implications of this for our country is something that we have to think about. So there is need for an urgent constitutional amendment.
So are there constitutional guardrails as we speak to prevent this sort of situation from happening? Because people might be thinking that, you know, the president can't wake up and, you know, do that. It will be... But you see what's happening in the United States, for example, where people never thought that a president of the United States will say some of the things or carry out some of the executive orders and things that he's doing now. So there's always the possibility. That's why the framers of a constitution would, you know, give certain guardrails to prevent total impunity and, you know, dictatorial tendencies.
Constitutional guardrails are only effective in a country where public officers respect their oath of office. We have a National Assembly. Did they intervene? The answer is no. Do they even have the decency to ask how Ibo Kiba spent money? The answer is no. This is an Emiloko National Assembly, and you are talking about constitutional guardrails in a country that the IG, I think just yesterday, barely 24 hours ago, came out to tell Nigerians that despite a lawyer, I'm giving you an example of failure of our institutions of government. There is a case between the Nigerian Bar Association and the police in court on tinted glass permit. The counsel to the police made an undertaking in court that they will maintain the status quo until the case is determined, which was the freezing of the enforcement. On the basis of that undertaking, on record, NBA withdrew their motion for interlocutory injunction. The court adjourned the matter for judgment. Instead of awaiting the judgment, the IG decided to give his boys Christmas bonanza by saying it will resume enforcement. I'm saying this is the police, the primary law enforcement agency. The head of that agency is now going on record to show his disdain for the rule of law. That is not a country that you can speak about constitutional guardrails. So we have a situation quite tragically in Nigeria, where institutions that are supposed to safeguard our democracy, that are supposed to preserve the rule of law, are the ones raping the constitutions, are the ones desecrating the rule of law. Sometimes you even go to court, and you find it very difficult to even get judicial intervention. And even when the courts intervene, the executive flouts orders of courts. So this is a very, very bad situation for our country. We need to really rethink the direction that we are going. Because the way it is, the president is becoming a monarch. We are going through, it looks like we are transcending towards a monarchy. What is stopping Tinubu from doing whatever he wants to do today? I mean, look at, why do you think all the governors are defecting? Is it because the APC has done so remarkably well? It is because even they themselves do not believe in the country. They don't believe in our systems of checks and balances. They don't believe in the rule of law. They don't believe in a multi-party democracy. So we need to be, I'm saying that, looking at this judgment, there is need to redefine our constitutional system, the direction we are going. The Supreme Court also made a finding, by the way, that Nigeria operates a constitutional system of government based on federalism, federal system. No arm of government, no tier of government is superior to the other. That's what the Supreme Court has said, but is that really the case? In some states, guess what? In some states, the judiciary is barely functioning, including Imo, because governors have chosen, and
there's barely separation of powers.
There is, I mean, you could clearly see when vehicles are purchased for judges, they call the media. But when vehicles are purchased for commissioners, no governor shows it to the media. Why is it so? The judiciary has to also think about its own independence.
But do you think the judiciary has to save itself? Let me just read something to you. This is the latest information. This time, let's go to Akwa Ibom State. The Speaker, I don't know if you've heard about it.
It's the clownish comments the gentleman made.
Akwa Ibom House of Assembly,
yes.
Talking about Udeme Otong. Now, he said this, and I quote, all of the 26 House of Assembly tickets are already in my pocket.
Akwa Ibom,
I single-handedly negotiated for them.
Yes.
No one else did. I will personally, he says, choose who becomes a House of Assembly member and hand the tickets to the person from my pocket. This is someone who understands the law and is openly saying
He's a lawmaker.
In public as a lawmaker. What does this tell about Nigerians?
One of the things, one of the issues we must have is serious, and I'm not joking here. I don't want you to take what I'm about to say as a joke. One of the issues Nigeria as a country must seriously debate is insistence on those seeking elective offices to undergo a drug test. That kind of statement should be a product of intoxication. Someone had marijuana in the night and woke up in the morning, he's so high, he cannot see well, and he begins to talk carelessly. Akwa Ibom and it's my state, by the way, so it's personal to me. Akwa Ibom is a clear demonstration, a vivid example of how institutions of governance have failed. It didn't start with Umoino. From the Akpabio years, Akwa Ibom has not had any semblance of opposition in the governance of the state. So when you have a speaker, who, by the way, I don't even know how many people in his constituency know him. I don't know, in fact, it was when I saw the news, I had to go and check who is the Speaker of the House of Assembly. I don't know the gentleman. I'm not sure how many people know him. So, but he comes out and he speaks so carelessly, he speaks with so much insolence.
Colleagues, his peers.
He said, he said the assembly tickets, 26 House of Assembly tickets are already in my pocket.
Finally, before
I was expecting that.
He's not a serious person. I think the public should disregard what he has said.
If you can, in a minute, we'll really appreciate it because we're out of time. Senate President Godswill Akpabio yesterday in the plenary did talk about involving the NSA and the DSS in dealing with people who carry rumors of fake debts. It was reported that former President Yakubu Gowon passed over the weekend, and we've also seen a few politicians' names banded. What do you make of that? Is that the statutory responsibility of the DSS and the National Security Advisor?
They are telling us that those institutions have become redundant. Because, I think Akpabio may be trying to indict Ribadu, because if Ribadu is serious with his job, look at the killings and kidnappings. Why is he not bothered about that? He wants the National Security Advisor of a country to be chasing people that are spreading rumors that somebody has died.
All right.
This is just a clownish show. They should stop embarrassing our country. If they don't have what to do, they can simply resign. What is the business of the NSA with spreading rumors that somebody has died?
All right. Nibehe, thank you for joining us. Just to clarify, the clownish show he's talking about is not our show. It's about what's happening in the red chambers. Well, thank you for joining us.
It's always
thank you to our
so
virtual
much.
audience for joining us now. We're going to break, and when we come back, we have more conversations. Please stay with us. FSDH Merchant Bank has been named one of Nigeria's best workplaces, earning recognition from the Great Place to Work for its people-focused culture and commitment to employee experience. This recognition comes amid growing evidence that a strong workplace culture contributes not only to employee satisfaction, but also to profitability, growth, customer loyalty, and operational efficiency. We're joined this morning by the head of human resources at FSDH Merchant Bank, Olubukola Lanikpekunlawal, who will share insights on the initiative and the practices that earn this accolade. And we're also joined by the country manager of Great Place to Work Nigeria, Otamere Elegon. Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure to join us.
Pleasure to be here. First of all, to you, congratulations to you and to the incredible FSDH Merchant Bank fam for this Great Place to Work achievement. Maybe I'll start with Mr. Elegon and ask, tell us, what has made FSDH Merchant Bank a great place to work?
Well, maybe I give an overview about all of this process. Great Place to Work started out in 30 plus years, and the concept was around finding organizations. Initially, it was looking for the worst places to work in America. But when they came out, they said to themselves that we are likely to have some legal implications around this. And so they went back to the drawing board and said, instead of looking for the worst places to work in America, let's go look for the best companies in America. And over a 30 plus year, over a 3 year of assessments of companies, they came up with the fact that the reason why companies are great workplaces is the level of trust that exists in these companies. Employees trust themselves, employees trust senior leaders, employees trust what they do on a daily basis. And so that basically is the concept around how we get on to assess companies as great workplaces. And like we always say, the concept of trust is not far-fetched. We all come from have relationships, whether they are siblings, whether they are spousal relationships. Trust basically is what keeps them going. And so we do an assessment yearly across the globe in about 180 plus countries where we ask employees, and rightly so, employees are the ones who work in these organizations to say, is your company a great place to work? And so with FSDH, we had to assess them around if management is senior leaders credible. We've assessed them around the employees feel that they feel respected at work, and their opinions count. Management provides them an enabling environment. We've assessed them around fairness to say the employees receive a fair sense of salaries, bonuses. We've also assessed our levels of pride. We see pride so critical at work, and asking employees at FSDH to say the employees feel good pride at work, and also to measure the levels of camaraderie. Are we working as teams? We know how effective teamwork plays a key role in achieving those objectives, collaboration, all of that across the organization. And so based on those assessments and feedback from employees, they came up with a very high trust index score. And so we also went on to look at their policies and practices. Policies and practices are driven by trust, which is the foundation. Like we say, it enables that your values come alive. We always say that between your company's mission and your company's vision, your company's values, the house of a business, emphasis for us always goes beyond what companies do to why you do it and how you do it. That becomes that's what now begins to differentiate companies from others. And so looking through those assessments around how they define their values and how they live their values and how their values make leaders become effective, all of those assessments and leadership effectiveness driving innovation, all those are areas that we looked at to say, indeed, FSDH is one of the best workplaces in Nigeria.
And they ticked all the boxes. Now that brings me to Mrs. Lawal. Congratulations to
Thank you.
FSDH Merchant Bank.
Thank you.
Okay. But what would you say stood out in the last year, and what does this recognition mean for your organization?
Right, yes. I mean, just to re-emphasize the fact that FSDH Merchant Bank is, I mean, I've had to experience the bank up close, and I can say that there really is a culture that benefits the people and the staff. It feels like it's one big happy family. So for organizations who are hoping to be where you are, let's share with us some of the cultures, the initiatives that are currently existing in the bank to ensure that the bank has now become a great place to work.
Thank you. So for us, I mean, last year is just one of the years that we just told ourselves that we have to continue. Consistency is one thing that has stood for us. And I think it was about 3 years ago that we decided to say, you know what, for brand visibility, we actually should join the Great Place to Work and actually get certified and see whether our brand, what we're doing in-house, is enough or whether we need to do more. I mean, that was one of the reasons why we started the journey. So with regards to, the last 1 year, what we've been doing, I think it's more of the tone at the top. So it starts from the top, from the leadership. And so the environment, the behavior that we want to see, employee involvement, because it's important for organizations to know that the employees as a stakeholder also have a place and have a say in what is done and how things play out in the organization. So beyond looking for doing business right and profitability, the people that are going to drive those goals and objectives to deliver on the numbers must also be connected to the work. And employee engagement for us is so important. So we start with the employee experience. What experience are we giving to our people? And so it's not just about work for us. It's some player times when we have, team bonding activities, virtual and physical. I'm happy you said you've observed it close enough, so you know. And so employee experience is important for us.
Sorry to interrupt you. How do you have time
for all of that?
Team bonding and mapping and all these activities?
So it's a deliberate attempt that we've taken, and we said that it's something we must do. Because we believe that work is not, all work and no play makes all employees,
I agree.
very dull, right? And when you have dull employees, it's going to impact performance ultimately. And so we've noted that, and I think this began since COVID, because since COVID, people actually realized that you can actually have a relaxed environment. Working from your home, the environment is relaxed. There's nobody breathing down your neck, so to get work done. So we believe that we must balance work with those engagements and those activities, and that we've put in place is working. Performance is on the upward trajectory for us. So I mean, nobody's going to tell us what you're doing is wrong, because ultimately, what the shareholders, the business owners want to see is that the organization is doing very well in terms of risk assessment. You're also ensuring that you're closing out all the gaps so that there are no risks, there are no leakages, and you're able to retain the people that are going to do the work. And what will enable you to retain the people is when they find the environment conducive enough, and they're connected to, you're speaking to their total person, and not just work for me and you get paid. And it's beyond that. Organizations should know that it's actually beyond just being paid for the work that you do.
If I may, we also do what is called Best Practice Awards. And for 3 years in a row, I think, FSDH has been recognized as the best workplaces for women. So for all the ladies out there, this is open fact around what they do around the employee experience.
Okay, sorry, just to now take that back. He's talked about FSDH having ranked as the best place to work for women. What are some of the things that you've done that make women want to, flock to FSDH?
Okay, so I mean, at FSDH, there's equity, right? And it's the same equal opportunities for all. So we don't see that for some roles, it must be a particular agenda. You compete. I mean, equally, and if you qualify for it, you get it, that's one. And if you look at our leadership, I mean, if you look at number 1, number 2, number 3, of our executive, we have 3 women, women are ably represented. And I think one of the things that we did was, I think it was about 4 years ago, we realized that we didn't have enough women representation in the organization. So it was a deliberate attempt, goal from the board to say that we must also ensure that we have more representation for women. And that journey started for women. And that journey started for women. And of course, we've been able to grow it and grow the number of women representation. I also remember when the federal government gazetted the review of maternity leave, immediately we moved from 3 months to 4 months. And we support our female women employees, especially when it has to do with family, when it has to do with their personal life. We are a very realistic organization. We understand what it feels like, and we just go out to ensure that we take care of whatever it is that.
That's a woman, that makes me smile.
Now, Mr. Elegan, interesting data here. Global Great Place to Work data shows that best workplaces outperform competitors financially. How does this trend show up in Nigeria? And what do you say to people that feel, when you tell people you work in a relaxed atmosphere, you work in a great place, they often think it's lax, that they often say you might be spoiling them and they won't sit up, and so there has to be this sort of tension, or things have to be hard.
So with regards to data, global data for us points to the fact that best workplaces outperform by about 19% globally. But we see in Nigeria, around our assessments in Nigeria speak to around those numbers. But what we are working on doing from next year is to engage a consultant. And so we're having an independent assessment around this fact to say, indeed, are good workplaces do they outperform the market? But we see from our own analysis with companies that work with how the workplace culture has improved and how it has impacted on their profitability for their businesses.
You give feedback.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, So now we've talked about, just to mention to organizations that are looking for a great place, looking to be certified. I mean, she shared with us that they decided that they needed to be certified. What's the procedure like?
Well, typically it's around employee experience, and so the process would involve us saying, or you reaching out to us to say to us, we want to be certified as a good place to work. As a matter of fact, we say beyond certification, what next? Because it's 65% of your score certifies you as a good place to work. What we always say to you, what about the 35%? And so critically, reaching out to us, carrying out an employee engagement survey, like I mentioned earlier on, employees are in the best position to say that a company is a good place to work. And so if employees, after that survey process, say to us that this company is a good place to work, we just go on to certify the company like we've done globally for companies.
All right, my final question to you would be, now FSDH has been certified as a great place to work for 3 years consecutively. You've been ranking highly. What are the expectations for the future? What should we expect from you? That's the one part. The second part is, if you do find that challenge, balancing being the HR for the organization and the HR for the people. And what I'm driving at is how HR is meant to make the organization feel like we certainly have your best interest, negotiating the best deals that will favor you, ensuring that your profit is still intact. But the employees also want to be able to feel like HR is on our side. HR hears our, our complaints. Do you ever find that tussle? Do you ever struggle with that?
Well, maybe some years ago. I mean, but ever since we've chosen to be a people-focused organization, so it's not about which side are you, it's about what's best. Because people in HR are also employees of the organization.
Absolutely.
So whatever happens to other members will also affect you. So not so,
okay,
not so, because I mean, in pushing out, people-focused initiatives for the organization, it ultimately impacts everyone. So whatever it is that you're going to engage management with to say, we need this for the people. I mean, it must be that it's been tested, it's been proven that that's what is needed. And that comes with the input of the employees. So you're not just coming to serve them, whatever you think they should have. You're also getting input from them into what exactly are we looking to achieve and what are we looking to change. Back to your first question, what's next for us? What's next for us is to sustain our certification. And to sustain our certification is to remain consistent with all the initiatives we have in place and also bring in, new initiatives, which is an ongoing action for us, and they will continue to do that.
I mean, they say the reward for good work is more work. So kudos to you. Thank you very much. And congratulations. And once again, kudos to Great Place to Work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
This has been quite an insightful conversation, and we hope that organizations, business owners can take a cue from this and ensure that they will run people-centered organizations and companies so that they can indeed be proven to be great places to work. We'll now connect with our correspondent, Israel Eferobo. We'll be bringing a report from Israel live. Good morning, Israel.
To show that indeed our life really matters to them. They should show that the lives of
all right, there is an NLC anti-insecurity protest that's happening in Lagos State, and Israel is bringing us the updates live from Lagos, Nigeria. Israel Eferobo, good morning. Where in Lagos are you as the anti-insecurity protest is going on, and what are the people saying?
Hey, good morning to you, Olive. Yes, we are right now at Allen Junction here in Lagos. The demonstration actually started all the way down from Ikeja under bridge. Various groups under the NLC, they've all converged under Ikeja under bridge to protest against the rising insecurity in the country. Recall the NLC did say that they will be doing this, and now they are actually doing this. But we also do know that there has been some sort of conversations at the presidency late last night. But then again, we were shocked that this demonstration is still ongoing. It still went ahead today, and they've walked all the way down on this Allen Road, all the way to Allen Junction right now, where they are now converged. We'll try and see if we can speak to the leader of this group right now to tell us exactly why they are still here right now. So talk to us, please.
Fire! They should fire them. Fire. Yes. Any kidnapper should be sentenced to death. Immediately. Penalty, and they should not spare them. They should kill them immediately. And not the proceeds of the kidnapping They should destroy it in their face.
But we understand that there is a meeting between the presidency right now and Labour. Why is this demonstration still going on?
Let our leaders continue the meeting with the president. We were in Lagos, and this is going on across all the states of the federation. It's a peaceful protest, and we have a right to protest and show our displeasure. Our voice needs to be amplified, and we need to show our displeasure to insecurity. Look at most of my people. They are lamenting. They want to go and see their loved one in their villages. They want to go back home. They want to, behave as we normally behaved 20 years ago. But that right has been taken away from them, courtesy of the insincerity of the government. We need government to stand up to its responsibility. Enough of the slumber. Enough of the slumber. Government should wake up. Let the insecurity should die with 2025. Let kidnapping die with 2025. Let banditry die with 2025. Government at all levels. We are not talking about only the federal. We are talking about all the states. You are collecting allocation for security. Local government, you are now, you have your full autonomy now. You are collecting your money. Nigerians, let us continue to demand from them, and ask them for accountability. You need to be accountable to us. Fix our roads, fix insecurity, fix education, fix health, fix all the sector. We are tired of maladministration and bad governance. It's going to be an eye for an eye in 2026. There is no longer going to be a business as usual. 2026 will demand for accountability. We move.
Olive, there you go. They say that they will go ahead with this particular protest, this particular demonstration, until they hear something concrete from the government. I asked that right there, right now, just now, that the presidency has been having a meeting with NLC since late last night. Why are they going ahead with this protest? And you heard exactly what she said, that they will go ahead with this protest until they hear something concrete from the government. Well, right now, what we do know also is that they are going all the way to the government house here at Alausa, and then we'll try and see if maybe a representative from the government at the Lagos house or here at the secretariat will come out to receive this group of demonstrators here in Lagos. Olive.
Thank you very much, Israel. Please stay behind. Let's now connect with Chizoba to also bring us updates from where she is. Good morning, Chizoba. We know you are in Plateau State. What's the update there?
Good morning, Olive. Of course, it's in just here, the Plateau State capital. This is a popular secretariat roundabout where people always gather or groups gather when they want to have such activities and stuff like this. And so behind me, you can see very well, are the members of the NLC and their affiliates in the state capital, George, where they have gathered to say enough is enough. So according to them, they want to say no to all these things of insecurity, not just in Plateau State, across the country, where recently we heard about kidnapping of students in schools and all of those, kidnapping on the road and everything. People are no longer safe. And so today they have decided to go and do this process. So from here in Jos, at this secretariat roundabout, they are planning to take a process march, a peaceful one at that, to the State House of Assembly to, of course, deliver their letter of displeasure on what is going on here. And after that, I was also told that they will march the government house to also have a word with the governor. And of course, they are going to carry on this message to the president and see what happens thereafter. Good enough, we have the state chairman of the NLC in the person of Mr. Manzi. Hello, Mr. Manzi. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Manzi, Eugene Manzi is the state chairman of NLC in Plateau State. So he's going to tell us what exactly this gathering here is for and what they hope to achieve at the end of the day. Tell us, Mr. Manzi.
Hello, when we are here, we are gathered under the PTA just this morning to express our grievances with institutions in Nigeria. The inability of government to catch this security is increasing day by day. And the people are amending. We are perpetrating this atrocity without any challenge. And so, for how long can we continue to look at them for that way? And so, at our next meeting in Lagos last week, we agreed that we are going to take our grievances to the state government, federal government, and all the parts of the government, the country. We rise up to expectations and responsibility to see to it that they fight this system high, so that the citizens will go without any fear or negotiation or intimidation by this huge number of criminals, the bandits, the terrorists, and the kidnappers. You know, whatever, you can make travel. Even your houses cannot stay. Let's put a thing here and there. You don't want anybody like that. For no reason, and nobody can just arrest them. And then we cannot see any arrest. You cannot see any protecting firearms to fight with the government. They look at these people are more than the government. No. They are after security. They are voting money for the security every year in the budget. But we don't see them taking processes. So we are just technically disgraced. Everybody is affected by this system. Where the revenue is directly. Even this, however, you cannot tell it freely. Either they get time or the guy. Whatever they are defining. So government can need to live out the country. You know, I'm going to run for the country and look for the criminals. Most of these people operating are criminals to other countries. That's number 12. Because we don't have the economy to keep to fight them. So we are calling on the government to stand up to the responsibility. And then let's fight this people right. No issue of religion. In this case, all religions are affected. No tribal, no ethnic, everything is affected. So let's come out together and let's see the government fighting these people and let's see in the news that they show us what they are doing and let's see the progress. Let's see what they are doing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Only you heard from the state chairman of NLC on their grievances and what they can do best to what's expected for this issue to be handled headlong. It's over to you, Oli.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chizoba Anyonwe. We now move back to Lagos, where Israel Eferobo is on the march from Allen Roundabout in Ikeja to the state government house. Israel, do we have any updates and development on that NLC anti-insecurity protest? Have you talked to other people? What are they saying?
Oh, well, Benga, the march is still on. The message is loud and it is very, very clear. They are asking the president to step in and end insecurity in the country. According to them, no more excuses. That's what these people here are saying on behalf of Nigerians. Well, I have Hassan Soweto here, who is also a part of this march. Indeed, he's also here to lend his voice. Soweto, this is News Central. Thank you for coming through.
Yes.
What is this about?
Well, this is about the insecurity plaguing this country, and which President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has offered to undo. Today's protest to tell the Nigerian government that it has failed.
Fortunately, we're having some connection issues with that live report with Israel Eferobo, but we'll do get back to him in the course of the programming. Olive, it's very interesting to see. Okay, we have Israel back. Go ahead, please.
The lives and properties of the people, that is not being done, and that is why we are out here today to say enough is enough.
But I mean, so what you just said that you do not need the president of the United States, Donald Trump, to step in before we know exactly what we're doing. But right now, there are collaborations. We hear that a lot is already being talked about between the government of the U.S. and Nigeria to end insecurity. What's your reaction to that?
Well, any help that we can get from the international community to resolve our problem is welcomed. But the point that must not be made is that there is no reason for Nigeria to get to this point of helplessness because of insecurity. If we had a ruling elite and a government that was proactive, because in the real sense of the word, the insecurity we have today is a direct product of our socio-economic crisis. When people are unemployed, when in the countryside, the agriculture cannot go on because government is not supporting farmers, all of these things eventually add up and create the basis
Unfortunately.
The point we are trying to make here today is to say that we don't have to wait for things to get to this stage. Nigeria government must stand up and begin to address our problems. That is the basis of today's protest.
All right, thank you so much, Hassan Soweto. But we also do know that legal luminary is right here as well. Talk to us. You are part of this huge protest. How many? Hello?
Yes, well, with you, Israel, I see you're on the move, and there's a lot happening where you are.
Yes, indeed, Benga. There is a lot happening here right now. The people are really going ahead to let their voice heard. And this march, this demonstration is going to continue till the very, very end. And the message is clear. They need the government of Nigeria to end insecurity right here, right now. I mean, you can see everyone is out here today. And the leaders of the NLC, labor unions, civil rights society, they are all here on behalf of Nigerians to drive home the point that people can no longer go home to their villages for Christmas. They really cannot, travel on our roads anymore. How safe, are people traveling this Christmas period? That is the basis of this demonstration here today, Benga.
Just to quickly confirm, Israel, what's the level of security around? Are there security operatives? And how would you say that they've interacted with the demonstrators?
Oh yes, indeed. Talking about security, I must say that the Lagos State Police Command has done really well in ensuring that this is exactly what it is in other clients. The police are just meant to guard the protesters, the demonstrators, to go about in trying to amplify their voices, what they want to say. They need to allow them to see what they're saying. So the police command of the Lagos State Security, they are all here, and they have been interacting professionally with the demonstrators here today. Olive?
All right. Thank you very much, Israel, for sharing that update with us. It's great to see that there is an interaction, a cohesion between the law enforcement agents and the citizens who have a right to protest peacefully and exercising their right to do so. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll be wrapping things up here on Breakfast Central. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. We have come to the end of the show, but not before we just, lend our thoughts to what's happening. There's a state of insecurity across the country. We're seeing workers, NLC members, different parts of the country protesting, expressing their grievance and their anger, and it's expected. We don't want to keep waking up and hearing stories of number of schoolgirls being kidnapped until today. We don't have any information about that. Citizens feeling like they have to keep working hard to put together resources that would end up becoming ransom money. Our news being on the international scene with governments in different countries speaking about the state of insecurity in our country and threatening to invade, boots on the ground.
Let's hope the stakeholders and authorities take this heed and advice from the Nigeria Labour Congress and put an end to insecurity in all forms in our country. And that brings us to the end of the show today. It was a pleasure doing this as always. Remember to join us same time tomorrow for another scintillating and enlightening and enriching edition of Breakfast Central. I'm Benga Borowa.
And I am Olive Emodi. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.